Imagine a scenario repeated daily in virtually every workplace. A skilled professional, years into their career, performs a task they've done countless times. Their movements are automatic and their mind is on other things. It's this scene where complacency creeps in, setting the stage for tragedy. In this episode of Livewire with our special guest, Lito Wilkins, we dive into the destructive cycle of unsafe habits that can lead to accidents, offering a blueprint for fostering a culture of continuous vigilance and improvement. Welcome to ECOS Livewire. Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. How you doing, sir?
Good, good. It's good to see you. You're looking good.
Yeah, you are too. You got that robust beard going on, man.
Yeah, I've told you in the past, you know, I started growing this. I've always had a beard, but I started growing it when I retired from full-time employment, and I've just never been allowed to let it go wild, you know. So I'm trying to keep it kind of controlled, and the missus is she's tolerating it. But I think the day's coming where you know I've made my statement.
I don't know, man.
So
I'm thinking some beads, some bones, some shards, some metal, you know.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that intro for Lito was very excellent. I appreciate your time on that and your hard work on that.
Well, of course, those are Lito's words, and I just took some of the things that he had written, and it kind of sets the stage for what we're going to talk about today. So, great episode. I think we're going to have. I've really been excited to get Lito on and have him share his Livewire story with us. So, you know, when we started doing this, Brent, one of the first people you mentioned right out of the box, you know, when we started about talking about who we were going to have on as a guest, Lito's name was right there at the top of the list, you know, and of course, I've never met Lito, and you have. So tell us a little bit about why you felt he should have been top of the list.
Yeah. So I met Lito about 2.5 years ago at an incident prevention utility safety conference in near Dallas, Texas, just 2.5 years ago or so. And he was one of those guys that when you talk with, you meet, he's just genuine. He's real. And you know, what he does and how he shares himself in the industry is just amazing, just flat amazing. And then when we started Electric Culture of Safety, just shortly right after that, he was one of the guys that immediately were like, hey, I want to be part of this. I want to be there. And he actually came and was Lineman Safety National Webinar, episode 003. And he shared my shocking awakening, his story of being complacent and what happened. And man, that's just one thing. Every time he talks about it, got to make sure you have some tissues around when he shares, because it's just so real, and it makes you think. It makes you think and look inside and crack open your own mind. You know, so I'm excited. Yeah, I'm real excited.
Excellent. Yeah. So, well, before we bring Lito on, I just want to read a short bio about Lito, and so people can get a good understanding of who Lito is, and then of course he'll elaborate on that, I'm sure. So Lito is a Marine and a seasoned journeyman lineman. He is currently entrusted with the role of safety director at International Line Builders Northern California Division. With 2 decades of experience in power line construction trade, 7 of which were spent on high-stakes transmission bare hand crew, maintaining 500,000 volt circuits. His journey took an unexpected turn when he faced a near-death experience during a high-voltage contact, a moment that awakened a profound realization. That pivotal moment led him to establish Leading Safe Lineworkers, where he shares the powerful narrative of his survival and the lessons that he learned because of that day. Lito considers himself incredibly fortunate and compelled by a deep purpose. His mission is to illuminate the path and ensure that others are equipped to make it home to their families, just as he considers blessed to have done himself. So, yeah, with that, let's bring Lito on and hey, Lito, how you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up, man?
Brother Brent, how are you, brother?
Good, brother. It's good to
Doing
see
well.
you again.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that awesome introduction.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah, let's one of the things that of course we want to talk about today, Lito, is your I think you do is it a weekly blog that you put out, or is it
Yeah, it's somewhat new. You know, I started it probably a couple months ago, and so it's kind of sporadic right now, but I'm getting some structure into it to where
Yeah.
you know there's constant content coming out.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I've read every one of them. I like they're very to the point. And of course they're designed to make people think, and that's what it's all about. And they're short, and very they're very easy to follow. I just think they're super. So and of course the one that we want to talk about today is this breaking the cycle of complacency. And that's one of the things we hear in our industry. Every time there's an incident, it seems like you hear the word complacency. The guys are getting complacent. An accident happens, and it happened because of complacency. And we just keep hearing that. But what we don't hear, and what we don't dive into as much as I think we should, how do you stop that? How do you really, and is it always complacency? When something goes wrong, or is it just intentionally not following rules, right? Because you don't understand, or you don't think they're important, So anyway, that's kind of what I'd like to talk about today. But I'd like to hear a little bit about what we call your live wire story. Where did you start, and how did you get where you're at?
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I did not see myself going into this trade at all. Actually, I was very I pushed back on my family because I have 2 uncles and a cousin who are linemen. And my uncle, I was in high school. He'd always say, "Hey, man, you just say the word, and I can get you in. We're ready to go here." And I saw, I wanted to fly, and I wanted to. I'm an aviation enthusiast, and I wanted to get out of town. That was the big thing. I grew up in a small town in Northern California, and so I joined the military in my junior year, the Marine Corps. And actually had my grandparents who raised me. They had to sign the line for me because I wasn't. I was still a minor. So I went in the military, did my thing. I was aviation ordnance, loading guns and bombs, and a door gunner in a helicopter for a few years, and did all that stuff. So I was around aviation. But it came time for me to say goodbye to the Marine Corps, come back home, and be close to family again. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, there was not really an option for somebody that knew how to load weapons on airplanes, other than joining some, terrorist group. And that was not the way I was going. So, after a year of working at the airport, making $10 an hour as the assistant manager for, a small FBO, loading bags on a private jet for, these wealthy people, and kind of living off my ex-girlfriend, or my girlfriend at the time. Yeah, priorities needed to shift, and my big changes need to be made. And that's when I made a call to my uncle, and he got me an interview, and that's where it started. I got in with the utility here, got on with them, and did my apprenticeship through them, outstanding apprenticeship, and worked my way up, topped out. And then when I was working general construction, so we traveled all over the place here in Northern California. So there was time away from family and all that. So I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to settle down and be with my family. And work in one spot. I actually got an opportunity to work on a transmission project, and I fell in love with the big wire and the heavy stuff and the helicopter and the cranes and all that stuff. And I knew exactly where I wanted to go. And I waited my time and got my bid to transmission crew. And the guys that were on that crew were basically guys I came up with. And we were all really close. And we were a bare hand crew, went to bare hand school, learned how to do all that, and loved it. And we got out on the we got out there and on the wire one day. It's just a job that we do a lot. Pretty efficient at it, and we're a tight group, and everybody kind of, you don't have to tell anybody what you're going to do. Everybody knows what Lito's doing and what say Mike is doing. Everybody knows their job. Everybody knows where everybody's at. And I got to the job site that day, and I was a little behind the guys. I was driving one of the big trucks, and they were already set up when I got on the job site. Helicopter was on the deck, shut down, and the first thought that came to me, because I'm an aviation enthusiast, was, hey, I wonder if anybody jumped in that helicopter and flew to all of our job sites to, check for additional hazards and let the pilot know, hey, we're doing this here, we're doing this here. But because we've done it so many times and it always happened, I didn't ask any questions. I just kind of just let that go and assume that that had happened. We did our detailed tailboard, flew out to the job site, and that's when we recognized an additional hazard that wasn't captured, that we could discuss in our tailboard brief, which was a vertical run of OPGW that was dead-ended to the tower at the goat peak at the top. Usually it goes through, but this one had a splice box down below the bridge where we were working from. And so we landed on the steel, helicopter flew away, and we all, we were like, okay, let's take 2 minutes to talk about this, because we know we got to ground this, we got to get past it. And basically what it had was one run coming in from the north down the face of the steel to the splice box, and then up the south side of the steel, and then back out the line. And it wasn't bonded to the steel at all, so it was insulated. And so we had worked with it before, but never in that configuration. And for me, what I point out is that right there should have been a critical stop point versus a pause point, right? A critical stop point where the crew calls a helicopter back, we go back to the LZ, and we talk about what we just found and how to mitigate it. But because we had worked with it so many times, we felt we understood it. But in the configuration that we knew it, you only needed to use one ground to work on it, because it ran straight through. So looking at it, we kind of traced it down to the splice box and back up, and it in our minds was one solid piece. So I called one ground, and we grounded it on the north side of the steel. And so as I was working my way across, because I needed to get past that to get out to the arm to start receiving all the material and stuff for the area that I was going to be working, I stopped. And for some reason there was still doubt in my mind, right? Just in the back of your head, that doubt just sitting there. And I reached out and I tapped that OPGW on the south face and got nothing. And well, that just solidified our plan. Like we're good, what our mitigations were great, and we can go to work, right? So I did what I had done, my entire time coming up, and what was known for the trade as acceptable, which was unbelt and start climbing across the tower, right?
Right.
And this is 2015, and so something in our trade that came out in 2015 that was huge was 100% fall protection at all times, right?
Correct.
In fact, I was the safety lead for my crew for probably 3 years prior to that day. Going to grassroots meetings, very engaged in safety talk. I was the competent person for fall protection, so I received all our 100% fall protection and inspected it for everybody and issued it out the day before, but I did not use it. Right. And so as I was climbing out on the outside of that steel, 125 feet in the air, I'm climbing past that OPGW. It's running basically down right in front of me, down between my legs. I got I'm basically straddling it as I'm climbing past it. My left arm is my left wrist is touching it, right? And in
Yo,
my mind, I'm like, wow, nothing. I don't feel anything. So yeah, we're totally fine. Let's go to work. And the second that I put my right hand up on that steel, my body locked up.
uh,
And I can feel it. I can hear it in my head. And my buddy 5 feet away from me, he could hear it. And he can hear me making these lurching sounds with my voice. And all that was running through my mind was, why is this happening? You know, we're grounded.
right.
What's
right.
going on here? You know? And I'm blessed that I had the mindset or the thought to not just let go and drop away from what was hurting me. But because if I was wearing my fall protection, that all I would have needed to do is do that, right? I would have fallen into my fall
Didn't have it
protection,
on.
totally fine, but I didn't have it on. So that's a blessing there. But this electricity would came on strong, and then it faded away, and then it came right back on. And
Wow.
it was bleeding through me and my suit into the steel, down to the ground, down to the earth. And
Right.
then it would come right back, because here we got a 5,000 volt circuit, 500,000 volt circuit. We got another one right next to it that are just pumping voltage.
Correct.
Right. That's all around this OPGW. Right. And so it was collecting it like that.
Yeah.
And so, my best recollection, it seemed, and people talk about, felt like it happened so fast, but it felt like a lifetime. And that's what it felt like. It felt like I was holding on forever. I probably cycled that bleeding off of that induction 5 to 6 times before I was able to pull myself off and fall into the tower and land on my back right there at the bridge foot level. And now we got this hazard between me and my rescuers, So after they convinced me that I needed to go to the hospital because I didn't want to be the person that had the accident, I didn't want to be the one to stop the job that day.
Right.
I was, in pain. My muscles hurt, my arms are constricted, my legs are constricted, and just really sore. But I felt fine. I had that adrenaline rush pumping, and my thoughts were, hey, just let me reboot and let's go to work.
Let's go to work. Yeah.
I'm not dead, so let's go to work and finish this day out. We had a lot of work that day. We had 2 towers initially, and then we found out while we were out there that we had another tower got struck by lightning that night prior, and so we had 3 towers worth of work, which is more than a full day's worth of work for a 5-man crew. And so we get to the hospital, and for me, that the hospital was that moment of transformation. A lot of reflection happened there, and it didn't hit me right away. It was one of those where, okay, I'm going to get checked out, this and that, and my supervisor's there with me, and my heart checks out right away. You're fine, and they almost wanted to send me home, and my wife, who's she's an RN. She's like, really, you're going to send him home? Like, there's nothing else you want to like do or anything. And, they had to seek, a specialist to find out, hey, he's got to be monitored, because there could be something that's damaged inside him that could be failing, or fail, and so they ended up keeping me. But my wife showed up that day at the hospital, and that's where a lot of it sank in, was to how I got complacent, how my complacency, how the assumption that I made that day that a hazard assessment, was done on the job site, because we had always done it. Could have not, I would have been fine. I would have been gone. Right.
Sure.
But my family is left here. I have 4 kids and a wife. And they would have been left without a father to take care of them, and my wife without her partner to assist, and I don't want my children to have to go through that. I lost my father at a very young age. And I grew up without him. And I know what it feels like to not have that, and I look at my kids, now, it's many years later, is just, you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and help coach them through the things that, you know, they're going through.
Yeah.
You know, and so one other thing that really struck me was when my crew walked in that hospital room that day.
Wow.
They looked different. They looked different, and you could feel it in the air when they walked in, that something was different, that they
Mhm.
were affected. And that's when it really struck me was, holy cow, what if that assumption I made or that moment of complacency got them in this bed rather than me, or even worse, got them in the ground
Yeah.
to where they're not able to be with their family.
Yeah.
What
Wow.
what a holy cow moment for somebody to go and, you know,
Yeah.
who, you know, had the mindset of, I'm the safety guy, you know, I've taken care of my guys here, you know, I'm very engaged in safety, and now this,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And so that's where I came from. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do, because I don't want anybody else to learn, to go through what I went through, to learn that they might have some gaps in their own personal safety that they need to, you know, refocus on it. Because many people before me had the same thing happen and aren't with us anymore. And it's sad to say, since my accident, we've lost people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's such a powerful thing. And isn't it amazing how where life leads us? You know, it's I've been in the safety field now for well over 30 years, you know. And I got to where you know, I have my my story's a little bit different, but I did experience I had an incident, and then a coworker of mine had a more serious incident, and that's what changed my perspective. You know, that's what got me. Um, you know, it took that for me to realize that you know, these rules and these procedures are there for a reason. And you know, you mentioned when you had that just a tinge of it, you know, something was different, something was wrong, right? And you didn't act on it. Um, you know, Billy Martin, he told us here a couple weeks ago that, and I really love this statement, is that a concern that's basically a prediction of your future, you know, of a condition that's it's gonna happen. It you know, if you have that concern come into your head, it's a precursor to that incident actually happening. You know, you're almost predicting your future by bringing up that concern. But there's so many times where we just don't act on them.
Mhm.
You know, and I think that's your whole point of your blog, you know, is that complacency that you just know everything is going to be okay, right? We've done this 1,000 times, and then something changes.
Yeah, and that's, when I was writing that blog, that's where that mindset came from. Was half the time you don't even know that you're being complacent.
Right.
You're just going through what you
You
normally go
don't.
through,
Right.
and it just creeps in so slowly, and so undetectable. Just,
Yeah.
and so,
Flying under the radar.
yep. And so
You
it
know?
it 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 sneaks up and it'll bite you.
Yeah. You know, we know when we're rushing. We know when we're fatigued. We know when, you know, but you're right. That word, complacency, you know, that phenomenon, whatever you want to call it, you have no idea.
Mhm.
You really don't. And when you look at I brought up the definition of complacency. A complacent person is very pleased with themselves or feels that they do not need to do anything about a situation, even though the situation may be uncertain or dangerous. You
Mhm.
know, that's the definition of the complacency. Um, and so we hear this all the time. Like I said earlier, we hear this word thrown around, you know, and we tell people, gosh, don't be complacent. Just don't be complacent. but how do we really fix it, Lito?
Yeah. Just don't be, right? Just
Don't
don't be.
be.
Just fix yourself. Fix
Just
yourself. Don't
stop.
be it, right?
Just
Now,
stop.
you know, it starts with helping people understand that they are complacent.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
we all deal with it. We
Yeah,
all deal with it. It just
yeah,
takes us being able to recognize it. And so that's the first step is how do we recognize that we're being complacent? You know,
yeah.
we have to learn how to recognize that
Right.
moments. You
Yep.
know, for me, since that day, any time that I have some sort of doubt, something's telling me you need to re-step, you know, take a step back and look at what you're doing right now because something's not right,
Yeah.
you know. And it goes steps before that and placing, you know, points in your day that you have to learn to take where you stop and say, okay, I'm about to do this task and it requires a lot of attention. What do I need to focus on? What are my concerns with this? You know, so you can, I mean, if you're working by yourself or if you're working with a crew, you know, hey, you can talk about it together. Hey, we're about to, you know, go in, you know, the energized mode, right? You know,
Right.
let's glove up. We're about to glove up and go in the zone. We need 100% focus from everybody, including those on the ground, right? So
Oh,
team
yes.
together, you know, this is after, you know, we've already had your tailboard. You've already stopped and had your tailboard,
Yep.
you know, and gotten to work and you're working, you know, you're working into your day, right? And you set up the pole next to the hole, you know, you got your, you know, operators digging the hole and all that stuff. And now you got two linemen up in a bucket getting ready to go in the zone. You know what? Let's resync as a group here. We're about to
Yeah.
get into a different point in our day right here, you
Yep.
know, where there's risk and we need to make sure that we're all on point. Stop, get together as a group and say, hey, you know what?
Yep.
What's your concerns? And I want everybody to voice it. Give everybody an opportunity to say, hey, yeah, this is, you know, I have a concern with this. You know, those two phases are too close together. Those are pretty close together. How are we gonna mitigate that? How are we gonna work around that? You know, um, we just investigated an incident where clearance was canceled due to scheduling conflicts or something like that. Clearance was canceled. Crew needed work. The work was given back to them, and they felt as a crew that they could do it safely, right? And this is a primary riser, old porcelain pot heads.
Gotcha.
You
Yeah.
know, you're working with stuff that you know is this far from a grounded, you know,
Right.
arm, right?
Very, very
Energized.
high clearances.
And all it took was a moment for something to slip, right? Jumper slip out of one gloved hand, jumper slip out of one gloved hand, hit the rubber off of one phase, right? Rubber falls off, and that jumper come back from one phase to the other, and now we have a cross phase.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you know, there was nothing on that line that caused a flash or arc or anything like that, but there was potential, right? So it's taking time to say, hey, you know what? I, yeah, I am concerned. That is pretty darn close up there. Do we really feel safe to be able to continue this work without a clearance? Because
Right.
there was a clearance beforehand, and we're going to do it without one now.
Yeah.
You know, it's taken the time to put things in place before we start working, so we can recognize those gaps. So
Right.
that you know, if something does come up, we kind of have a plan for it anyway.
Yeah. I think a lot of that, Lito, it comes from, um, you know, the confidence level of our workforce. We've got some extremely talented people, you know, and the confidence level of the workforce, you know, is and that crew is that, yeah, we can go ahead and do this. You know, we have that. And to me, that plays into this complacency. You know, you know, we see this over and over and over again. And another thing with complacency, you know, it's how does a, you know, we ask a lot of our supervisors and our foremans, right? There's a lot that they have to do. But one of the things that is extremely important, they got to recognize when their crews are getting complacent? You know, they, and how do they do that? What are some of the red flags in your view that as a foreman that they should be looking for when they think their crew may be getting a little bit complacent? What are some of the red flags?
That's a good question, bud. Making me think early in the morning.
Well, we never said this was going to be easy, right?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
know. Well, for me, with the foreman, in my opinion, the foreman's ultimate role is that observer for the crew.
Yeah.
You should be sitting there constantly observing the crew, and not just looking for, safety issues, gauging the crew. How are they working? I would say one of the things we see a lot, right, trade wide, is dropped material on somebody standing in the hole.
Yep.
Now, where did that disconnect happen to where say a groundman or whoever it was allowed himself to get in the hole without communicating to the guys upstairs that they were down there, one, and the guys up in the air not communicating that, hey, I'm getting ready to move this, detach it from the pole and move it, so it's going to be free, and making sure that they're not in the hole, right? And so, I mean, the drop zone, that's one red flag right there, is the crew not communicating, not talking about the next steps. I was at a crew the other day, and I thought they were just very angry with each other. I'm like, what is going on with this crew? Like, no, they were communicating with each other. They were yelling back and forth up and down the pole. And I was like, this is awesome. This is like, this is what you want to see out in the field, the crew communicating every move. And they were like, it was like, they weren't angry yelling. They were yelling to communicate to each other. And, when guys on the back of a truck working on something, and he can hear at the same time somebody yelling something, and he had a call back to him, right? He was ready to say, hey, yep, whatever it was that they were doing.
Right.
And that's where we need to get, is to where the crew is constantly talking about every move that they do, and for me, within my transformation, I had to take myself back to my military time, to where I served on a cargo helicopter as a door gunner. And the two pilots, this is a large helicopter. The pilots are in their seats. They're not able to see what's going on behind them. They're not able to see, am I clear to come left? Am I clear to come right? This, and so the two crew members in the back are their eyes. And so here you got a lieutenant colonel, the commanding officer of the squadron. You got a lance corporal, third rank up in the enlisted ranks, where this lieutenant colonel up here is relying on everything that this lance corporal says to help him fly that helicopter. That helicopter will never turn left without the pilot hearing my voice say clear left.
Right.
After he says coming left. And so I had to take myself back to that. And that's where I think our crews need to get to, is that communication to where every move is talked about. Correct. Either talked about in a focus point, let's pause and sync before we do this task. That entire task is talked through and understood by everybody, or we're talking through the whole task.
Yeah. I agree with that, Lito. And I get out in the field as often as I can. Of course, now I'm retired, I'm not out there as much, but I see this over and over again. Especially, I try to be on the job when they're doing their briefings, and it just, I see so many of it that it's just become this generic, almost a checklist item, right? And so when I see, you see employees that they just actively stop being engaged. They're not engaged. They're not asking questions. They're not seeking any kind of clarification or offering any kind of suggestions. It's just, you got all these check boxes, and everybody understand what you're going to do. All right, let's go for it. And I see that so often. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, we can tie that into complacency, but but I don't know, so much of our work, not necessarily the work, but the way we plan our work has just become too routine. And so yeah, I think that some people just don't want to speak up, right? They just don't want to say anything. They have this fear of being labeled as obstructive, right?
But
Uh,
see,
yeah,
that's where Mike, you know, listen to Lito's story and listening to, you know, years and years of these incidences, you know, we call ourselves a lineman. Okay. When we call ourselves a lineman, we're by ourselves. But I like to instill in the industry that we're a line team. This isn't about me being a lineman or you're a journeyman lineman. Today, this isn't about that. When we're working together, two of us or more, right? We're two or more are working together. We're a line team, and we need to keep that in focus as far as teaming up. When you mentioned, Michael, the definition of complacency, I actually use that definition, but what I add in the last part of that definition, I like to cater everything that we share in our safety tailboards or work or job briefings or safety presentations, everything, everywhere, all day long. Is I like to say that we're complacent, we feel good about ourselves, and we fail to work as a line team. That's my definition of complacency. Now, if we can instill line team into this, what happens is all those drivers, all those steering mechanisms of what complacency means and what happened. Oh, don't be complacent. No, be a line team. When we are a line team and we produce and train and create leaders from that new guy, the groundman, all the way up to, like you mentioned, Lito, the supervisor, to where the guy that's in the helicopter, the corporal, he's on the same level ground, being that line team, being that helicopter team in that helicopter, that task, which is at hand. And once we do that and train like that, talk like that, like you were saying, Lito, the guys were yelling at each other and you thought they were mad. And no, they were working, they were in sync, they were working as a line team on the equal playing field. And when we can do that, that's when we're going to continue to be successful, and we're going to always control the ball right here, always.
excellent. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, you listed 4 things in your blog, Lito, areas that we need to try to focus on. And they're all excellent. And a couple of them are, in my view, kind of an easy fix. A couple of them some of them are kind of tough, to really maneuver. So the first one you listed was awareness training. Now, we train a lot in our industry, and I love how your description here. You said implement training sessions focused on the how of safety procedures and the why. Understanding the natural consequences of complacency can be a powerful motivator. And I think we do a really good job on our industry of training people on regulations and procedures. But I think we really need to change, this how and the why, because if people are breaking a rule, they're doing that, or they're not following. I hate the word breaking. They're not following something. They don't know why it's important. So how do we change that? How do we make sure that they understand the whys and the hows? It just seems like, and sometimes we're just checking boxes.
Yeah. Yep. No, and it comes back down to, we could sit guys in a classroom and teach them the procedures, this and that. A few days later, they're not going to remember any of it.
That's right.
They won't remember what you taught them.
Nope.
You know, we need to get to a point where we're teaching them hands-on. They need to learn hands-on stuff. They need to get their hands moving. They get their brain moving through things, but that's where we show them why this rule matters.
Right.
You know, and there's Brady Hansen does a great job with that. And I don't know if you guys have him on your list yet. You should be there at the top. Brady Hansen is an amazing instructor.
Yeah, he's on our list.
You know, actually, I got one of his works of art right there on the door behind me. Yeah. One of his classes. And he brings a dirt box out, you know, and he teaches grounding. And I sit back and I watch him teach, and I watch, you know, light bulbs around the room while they're, because the guy is just eat it up.
Oh yeah.
You know, you can't break up a huddle with Brady in there.
Yeah.
And he shows them why do we ground this? Why do we have to EPZ? You know, and this is why, you know, they're like, oh, I didn't realize that could do that, you know? And so helping them understand the why and how to mitigate it is how we're going to stop.
Exactly.
This rash of, you know, this plateau, this fatality plateau that we've had over the years, to stop it, then get it to come down.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right on it. It's always been the way I've tried to instruct. You know, you can see my model in the back. I take my substation out. I've got a T-line, and you're right. You got to show them. And it's amazing to me, as long as we've been doing this, and as long as we've had the requirement to perform EPZ's grounding, it just astounds me to be in a room with linemen and hear what the myths that they still believe about electricity. You know, that all I got to do is ground here and all the current goes there. I don't have to worry, you know, and it's still out there. These myths are still, and just like Brady, I mean, I've never been in one of his classes. I've watched some of his videos. You're right. He's an amazing instructor. And, but that's what we've got to get back to. We got to turn those light bulbs on, you know, and it's really frustrating me to, you know, when we have an accident. I've worked for some big companies, and, you know, we'd have an accident, whether it was grounding, it doesn't matter what it was. Our response from management usually was, all right, let's have a stand down, time out, let's retrain everybody. Right. And 6 months later, we'd have the same incident. What do? It always goes back to training, right? Well, if they're not doing what we're telling them, you know, doing the same thing again is not going to fix it, right?
Yep, exactly right.
So I was, Lito, listening to you, and appreciate you coming here, man. Appreciate seeing you, and I know I talk with you a lot and follow up with the family and everything, and so that's kind of special to me. But you brought up hands-on, and I like to hear some of what you have to say, because you talked about Brady Hansen doing the training and how he's hands-on, and he shows everybody, and everybody's understanding, and you see these lights come on, you know, in their heads. So how can we better do the training to where it's not just hands-on? You mentioned lights on. So in other words, how can we do the training better to where we see those lights go on, where it's minds on? So it's not just hands on, but minds are on. And all the guys in that room, they're seeing it, they're connecting with the training, they're connecting with what's being shown. And basically, because they're understanding, they know the how, they know the why. What's happening is their consciousness, they're all connecting as well in the consciousness. So it's minds on. How can we better do that and train the trainer? How can we train the supervisors, the foremen, the journeymen, the apprentices? How can we go about to where we train the minds on? How can we do that? A better job?
We got to get to to a place where, you know, for me, it's easy for me. I've been through something, right? It's easy for me to get in front of guys and say, you know, this is why we do it this way. You know, and it's gotten easier. Like, I'll tell you, the first time I had to share, you know, anything, I think the first time I stood in front of a group, it was a group of my peers, actually, right after my accident, and I became the grassroots chair. Yep. I had to present one slide that my boss put together. He's like, I want you to put this slide together, or present on this slide. I sat up all night. I did not sleep studying that slide. I was nervous, rocks in my stomach, you know, because I was more worried about what they were going to think about me as I was presenting this, right? I'm not a great presenter. I am, you know, through practice over the years, I've gotten better, but it it we got to get the supervisors confident in their knowledge of what they're doing, because they know what they're doing. They wouldn't be a supervisor if they didn't know their job, right? We got to get them. They got to get confident in what they're doing, you know, to help them understand that it's part of their responsibility as a supervisor to ensure that their guys know the work.
Yep.
And know how to do it, right? We just had the apprenticeship is really good about this here here in the CalNev apprenticeship. We had a string of work procedure errors on the distribution side, and it was the same thing over and over again, you know, and it was the simple stuff. So, you know, energize neutral, you know, here, wrong transformer hung, wrong size transformer hung, you know, little things, but those little things add up. And so we were like, okay, well, let's see if the apprenticeship can help us out. You know, we brought all our distribution crews into the apprenticeship. One of their instructors who teaches all the apprentices taught them basics of transformer hookups, transformer connections. And they actually had paperwork and everything that they had to go through, and tests and stuff, while this instructor's teaching them. And then they went to a transformer room and got to actually connect, to do the connections and see how they worked, you know, and test transformers to make sure that the internal, you know, wiring matched the nameplate, stuff like that. And as I sat there and watched them, here I am again, observing instruction over again, right? Watching them learn this, I can see something was happening. And so here we go from that, you know, that groundman here, apprentice here, foreman here thing, to where they came to that even playing ground, where the apprentices were helping the linemen and the foreman at the table understand a concept for transfer hookups. Because who's the most learned right now? Who's in the thick of learning how to do this work? Our apprentices.
Yeah.
Our apprentices are learning this. You know, they go to their classes, they come back, they're learning from their, you know, their journeyman on this crew. Then they get put on another crew and they're learning from this journey. They're learning a lot of things. And their heads are in the books.
Yep.
And so we need to get that playing field back down here where the communication's even, and it's not like this.
Yep.
Nice.
Because, you know, because otherwise, like, we're just going to see it continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great. All right. The second thing that you brought out was safety audits. Regular surprise safety audits can keep workers on their toes, right? But the thing about audits that I have seen quite a, you know, it can become very adversarial, right? If they're not done properly. And I've seen this backfire so many times, is that some people believe an audit is nothing more than to find the negative, right? And so, you know, we have people show up on a crew, and right out of the box, they start looking for what's wrong, right? And that's what the whole audit becomes. And so how do we conduct audits to, you know, without putting workers on the defensive? And you know, you've when you're a safety guy, and again, I've been doing this a long time, but it's always, oh crap, here comes the safety guy, and if we've got if we got a workforce that almost has this dread that someone from safety is showing up on the site, we're doing safety wrong.
Yes.
We're doing it wrong. And I learned that very early on in my career, that you have, as the safety guy, right? You've got to become part of the, like Brent says, it's a team. And if your safety representatives or anybody from management is not, if the crews don't feel they're part of the team and you don't feel you're part of that team, we're doing it wrong. So how does a safety audit look? Why are we there? What are we looking for? How do we get the team involved so it's not just one guy out there busting somebody's, for not having wheel chocks,
Yeah.
How do we do that, Lito?
So, there's a fine line between, it working and it not working, right? And all it takes is one person coming in with the wrong attitude to do this observation, right? And you'll have it all up. Yep. You'll have outriggers come up, buckets come down, outriggers come up, and the guys cab up and wait for the guy to leave. I've seen it, and it's a thing that we need to do. Those people that are doing those observations need to learn how to do them.
Correct.
Because you're not, if you come in with the attitude of policing, you're going to get either run off or you're not going to get anything out of it because they're not going to do any work. You're not going to see anything good, right? So the safety managers, the safety directors, whoever it is, they're not the only ones doing these observations. Correct. Those supervisors need to be out there observing their guys and watching critical work. Not, oh, yep, they got chocks down, they're coned off, whatever. Not those little things. Those are low-hanging fruit.
Exactly.
Those are the things I see. They know my truck. My truck looks different than everybody else's. They know when I'm pulling up and I see the apprentice running back to the truck to start throwing chocks under it. Right. They know when the safety guy is showing up.
Right.
And for me, I don't go out there to try to find something. Exactly. I go out there to learn how the guys are doing things.
Exactly.
Because how am I supposed to put together a training program if I don't know what the guys need help with?
Yep.
And for me, I'm not in the work anymore.
That's right.
I'm not out there every day. These guys are.
Yep.
And they do good work, right? I'm out there to help them while they're going through a task. Maybe that's the opportunity for me to help that foreman recognize when his crew is out of sync.
Yeah.
Versus getting out there and then starting going through the bins and, oh, look at these, this rigging's all out of, out of, this, it's ripped, or whatever. They didn't have any chocks down, and why is this guy's harness all faded? And that's all that that stuff is handled somewhere else. That's not a crew visit. A crew visit is getting out there, building a relationship with that crew, and getting an understanding of how that crew works. Because I can sit here now and know which crews I really don't have to see today.
Right.
And I can know which crews need the help, and it's not just going out in the job. It's, if you're on a digital platform where you can see all the JHAs, that's even better, because I can look at a JHA and tell you this crew needs a crew visit.
Yeah.
And it's not to reprimand them for not having a good JHA or, not being as detailed or whatever it is, or, missing a hazard or whatever. It's okay, this is my moment to get out here and talk to these guys, build a relationship with them, build some trust, so that they can understand where I'm coming from when I say, hey, you know what, we need to make a change at this. Correct. You guys, this might be a little bit better if you did this.
Yep. Excellent.
Yeah, that's good, Lito.
Yep. All right. Recognition programs. This is another area that is difficult. Not so much difficult, but you know, we can get caught up in trying to bribe people, right, to do the right thing, and that's when I think of recognition programs. You know, a lot of people, there's some good programs out there, and some people handle it very well. Others don't, and it, you know, it's I've seen this over and over and over again with companies where things may be getting a little, their incident rates may be creeping up, and they're, you know, and so, well, let's try to incentivize the guys by dangling, you know, this out here. You know, to me, recognition to me is more of a I don't know, I'd maybe call it a pat on the back, right? When you recognize people's good work. When you talk about recognition programs, what's your thought on that? You know, other than just positive reinforcement.
Yeah. What do we get out of punitive approach to anything? Just bad attitude, right?
It's always going to fail.
Yeah, you're not going to get anything out of you know, just coming out and hammering guys.
No,
you know, especially if you're always the one that comes out and does it, right? If you're the one that always comes out and does it, like I said, crew's going to cab up. They're not going to do anything in front of you. You're not going to see anything, right?
Yeah.
For me, a lot of my I guess you call it wisdom. I don't think that's the right word for me, but goes back to my military career, right? And you know, for me, when I went from being, you know, I was a corporal for a while. I was the low man in my shop when I was at the helicopter squadron, and then I re-enlisted. And when I re-enlisted, I went to a different airframe. I went to an F-18, so a fighter jet, because I wanted to see the world. And when I got there, I picked up sergeant. So I went from being a low man in a shop to running a night crew with 8 Marines that work for me, you know. And they had an incentive program. It was an award that you were given, but your nominations came from your crew members.
Excellent.
So the crew members got to nominate somebody for an award for being an outstanding Marine, basically, or an outstanding leader. It was a leadership award. And the prize was a backseat ride in F-18.
Wow.
So do you think that straightened me up, made me want to be a great leader, right?
So did you get it?
I ended up getting it, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I got it because the corporal that worked for me, who was nominated for it, he got a DUI, unfortunately, which got him out of that, right? So it went to the next person that was voted for, which was me.
Right.
And didn't get the backseat ride. Unfortunately, I ended up getting out of the Marine Corps before the backseat ride happened. But I bring that up because I think that is a good place to start.
Yes.
These guys like to get recognition.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you could see it in their posts on their social media, like, hey, check out what we're doing today, and you know, you get the thumbs up and all that stuff, right? For us, we did a recognition program for the crews, and I think the prize was Yeti cooler, and they ate it up.
Oh yes,
they ate it up. You know, and we saw what we saw with the crews. Like it became after it was on a monthly basis. Safest crew, you know, turning in near misses, you know, not having incidents, stuff like that. We kind of gauged a bunch of different things, right? By the 3rd or 4th month, I was having a hard time deciding which crew to give it to, because they were, you know, they were doing their stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and so it shows me right there, you know, the benefits of having some sort of recognition program, you know, and recognizing guys versus coming out and being a hammer all the time and noticing all the bad things. Nobody wants to be pointed out that they've done something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't like being told that I've done something wrong.
Exactly.
You know,
none of it.
But if you're giving somebody something you know, and you hand them an award. I'll walk out to a crew and say, hey, you know what? Thanks for turning in that near miss.
Right.
It's helping out our trade.
Yeah.
Here are some hand warmers, you know, electronic hand warmers. Here
Yeah.
are some hand warmers for your crew.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, dude, thanks. You know, linemen like free stuff. They do.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
you've got their attention when you hand something out.
Yeah. The only thing you have to be, obviously, we talked about, you got to be a little careful that you don't create that environment where, you know, you have that near miss.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, man, I want those hand warmers. So we kind of keep things back a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a fine line. I think it can all be done. It's just, you know, and you're absolutely right, Lito. A positive reinforcement is people love to be told they're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, linemen like free stuff. You know,
for sure. You know, and
yeah.
Going back to what you were saying there, when we had the utility recognition program, it was like $30 gift card or something like that they gave you for not having incidents. That was it. That was the only thing that if you had a clean record, no incidents, then your crew got, you know, everybody got gift cards. Everybody was getting gift cards,
right?
Because we had a great safety record because nobody was turning stuff in.
Right.
They realized that really quick.
Really quick.
And so you can't have that. You can't have that. You have to level it out with, okay, where are we? Okay, so they're down on their incidents, or they don't have any incidents, but they've turned in. Look at these near misses.
Yeah,
they've turned in these near misses and good catches.
Correct.
Recognizing that. Hey, thank you for turning those in. You know, hey, and great job for, you know, because on our near miss form, we have them outlined. Hey, where did you what went wrong? What caused this to happen? What could you have done better to mitigate this from, you know, happening?
Excellent.
Right? We have them go through that.
Sure.
So the crew learns on their own.
Right.
When they turn it on in their miss, right?
Yeah.
So bringing those two together to be able to work together, you know, hey, incidents are down, but they're turning in near misses or good catches, even catching them before it's a near miss, right? Yeah. Turning in those things to even it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
So last area that you talked about was accountability. And accountability is a pretty broad, you know, topic. And we could talk about accountability for a while, you know. You know, obviously our goal is to create a culture where everybody feels responsible for safety. Everyone. That's what it's all about. That's why we're talking today. It's the whole purpose of what you and I do, Lito, and what Brent does. What you know, we want that because you're right. We've hit this plateau in our industry. You know, we've gotten to a point where we've done pretty good. You know, things have come down, but we've hit that plateau. We're still having that, you know, those sifts, and I go through and I look at a lot. I get into the OSHA database and I'll research what kind of, there isn't anything going on out there that just shouldn't be happening. You know, these contacts on live conductor, it just shouldn't be happening. It's just amazing to me these shortcuts that get taken. So how do we create that culture, you know, when it comes to accountability? And what do you mean, you know, how do we, and again, it's a broad topic. And I think that one of the issues in our industry that we still haven't been able to figure out is how we get people to talk and how we get people to speak up. You talk about crews that are yelling, you know, that's one crew, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing we have to keep in mind is, for the most part, all our crews are fine, right? We got some great people out there and they're all doing the right thing, but we've got 20%, you know, that haven't been able to figure it out. And maybe some of the ones that we think have got it figured out really don't. You know, they just haven't had that circumstance happen yet. So, you know, what's our approach to accountability?
Well, it's got to start with making everyone on that crew, everyone on that line team, and I say line team, I mean your organization, top to bottom, your organization, everybody feel comfortable speaking up.
Yep.
You know, raising concerns. If I raise a concern and I'm told to pack sand,
Right.
I don't want to hear it. You think that person's going to speak up again?
He'll never speak up again. And not only that, Lito, the rest of the crew sees him get shut down. They're not going to say anything either.
Nope.
You just shut your yeah, it's ruined.
And that'll follow them to the next place they work.
Absolutely.
And the next place they work.
Absolutely.
And it just grows. It grows from there. And so creating that safe place starts, I mean, it starts in two places. It starts upstairs.
Yep.
At the management level, right? But it also starts with that group you're with. The foreman and his crew, you know, and the foreman, I mean, has the power to make that crew,
oh yes,
be as open as he wants.
Yeah.
As open as he wants, you know. And for me, and I try to tell everybody when I go out, like, when you're done with that job brief, I mean, because that job brief isn't you doing a safety pitch. It isn't you talking about the job and the work that needs to be done. Yes, that has to be covered. Everybody needs to know what's going on.
Yep.
But you need to create a time. Not just ask the question, anybody got any questions? Anybody, you know, because you're still going to have that guy that doesn't feel comfortable. But if you give everybody a place and a time during that morning brief or right after that morning brief to voice concerns, they're going to open up. You know, I remember a time I was on a large transmission crew, and I was his first step apprentice. So I was, you know, young and new in the trade, right? And I didn't understand a few things, but I had a close relationship with a couple of linemen. You know, they were good friends. And so I waited until after the tailboard and I went over to the truck, you know, where we were getting our gear ready, and I asked them the questions, you know, versus bringing it up in the full circle with everybody. You know, who's to say that the other apprentices on the crew or even the foreman didn't catch what I was going to ask, you know, or that what I wanted to bring up wasn't caught already, you know, wasn't something that, you know, they identified as a hazard or that they even thought about. So, you know, getting to that point, being able to have everybody be comfortable and confident in speaking up is the first step, you know, and then we just creating that environment is like you said, is a hard thing to do because all it takes is one shutdown to shut a crew up.
Yep.
To shut one person up, you know, and all it takes is one person, you know, like you said, somebody seeing that happen. Oh, well, hey, I know that it's not safe to talk to this guy.
Correct.
You know, and so that's why I'm saying it comes from both levels, you know, the management.
Yep.
Having that openness and being able to let these guys voice their opinions and stuff. And it's a very, there's a very fine line there. Like, you know, it could be broken.
Yep.
You know, so once you've been able to create the culture where everybody feels safe to speak up, maintaining that takes work.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not one of those back of the mind things where, you know, you're not thinking about it. It's a constant. You have to nurture that relationship with all the crews, that line team. Because if you get somebody that comes in, so say, you need to monitor and manage it, because when you get, I mean, we're a revolving workforce. These guys are moving, or they're going where the money is.
Yep.
You know, and where the good work is. I see a lot of guys chasing work, not money, the work. They want to do this specific thing in this specific location. They're going to go and do it.
Yep.
Right. Well, sometimes you can have a guy that, you know, or even a crew, because some of them move around as crews, where that not unsafe culture, well, that culture where they're not open to speaking up and sharing ideas, sharing concerns and stuff like that, will move into an organization and could cause that. So as those move in, you need to be right there with them.
Yep.
gauge that and to help them understand, you know, and it takes time, and it takes extra, you know, work as a crew or as an employee comes on board to sit down and say, hey, you know what, this is who we are.
Yeah.
We're open here. You can talk to me. I'm a safe person.
Yeah.
You can go up and you can talk. That's why I love where I work right now. You know, the everybody from the bottom up is a traditional. They've all been linemen. So the president of our company is a lineman. They've all been where we are, you know, and so they all understand that concept.
Yeah.
You know, if you shut them down, if you don't create a place that's safe for opening up and being able to talk about things, it's not going to go good.
Exactly.
So Lito, that the last, I don't know, 10 minutes, this has been so powerful right here. Powerful. And, you know, we talk about building safety, a capacity for safety within our organization to where it's safe to fail. Okay. And to me, what you just brought up, basically the capacity to fail safely, is we look at it as nouns and things. And what you just spoke, what you just shared, is the most powerful thing as far as building capacity to fail safety. And that's with one another relationally and that line team, and where it's safe to be included. It's safe for us to learn, asking those questions, the whys and the hows. And why cannot a supervisor go to a new guy, go to that brand new apprentice and just say, hey, you know, what do you see? And ask the question, you know, hey, participate, you know, and try to start training leadership to that new apprentice. And it's okay. The apprentice can actually lead this thing and take turns. Why does the supervisor have to do the job brief? You know, take turns. You know, think about the diversity that you could bring. And when the journeyman linemen or the supervisors listening to maybe that apprentice, you know, basically you got to empty your cup. Okay, so the superintendent has to empty his cup. That's black belts know all about that. You empty your cup, and you got to be humble. And then all of a sudden, you start learning things from an apprentice that you never thought. And guess what? The thing the apprentice said was better, safer, more efficient than what you've been doing for 30 years. And then it's going to be safe. We got to make it to where we're building that capacity of safety, where it's safe to speak up, like you mentioned, and it's safe to challenge the status quo from the top down. And man, that's awesome.
Yeah. Safety and accountability is not just about following rules. It's about creating a safe place for people to voice their concerns.
Correct.
Nice.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this has been fantastic. So glad to have you on, Lito. I know we had to chase you down, but we finally got you. Everybody's busy, and yeah, it's been fantastic, and I just so much appreciate you and what you bring, and just keep up the good work, man.
I appreciate it, Mike.
Do you have anything that you want to share with leading safe line workers? Do you have anything with that?
Any final thoughts?
Yeah. So first, I want to thank you guys for creating the ECOS Livewire podcast and having this, because you know, with ECOS and all those people that are speaking on the webinar, there's still thousands and thousands of people that need to be touched by these messages that are shared on ECOS. And so this is a perfect thing, because we're in the trucks, we're on the road, you know, 90% of the time, right? And these guys need something to listen to, and this is the perfect thing for it. For me, I'm fixing to drop my first episode of the Leading Safe Lineworkers podcast. And so I just wanted to share a bit about that. It's going to be good. like you guys, like what you guys have here. We've got plenty of safety topics to talk about. I want to dig into some misconceptions. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about electrical work. And, you know, over the, past few years of me being out in the safety world and, going to events and safety functions, I've built a pretty strong network of very, very specialized people within the safety, realm, grounding, live line work, just a subject matter experts from everything that we do, that I'm going to be bringing onto the podcast to be able to talk to and dig into these things. Mike and Brent, you guys are my co-hosts, so I'm going to have you on the show every once in a while to talk about certain things, because there's going to be a lot that we need to dig into and demystify, and help our line team, excel and get better.